the companies to the market. Vallabh Bhansali. Ms.
Thank you.
Bhansali, thank you very much for joining us on ET Now. I don't want to be a pessimist or start on a negative note, but we are in a turbulent times. We have Trump, which is disrupting economies, uh, dictating economies how to do trade, and it's a turbulent time for many companies. Uh, if you look at the Trump statement, like he calling out India as a dead economy, despite India being the most fastest economy, uh, it seems that there is a, you know there is a difference of opinion with respect to how he sees many countries and what is happening on the ground for many of the emerging economies. How do you look at the current situation?
So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. And yes, indeed, these are very turbulent times. And it's not only US, it's also China. So the two largest economies in the world, and they are dictating policies. China is controlling rare earths, which is now very vital for many, many products. And so it's a double whammy for us. And then we had Pakistan in between. So it's been extraordinary times for India. But I feel that Indian businesses, and for that matter, Indian government, are coping well. It is too early for me to say this with greater confidence, but I feel pretty confident that Indian businesses will give a great account of themselves in another 1 or 2 years, that how they are using this turbulence to reshape their businesses, to rethink their businesses, and because this is not new to Indian businesses. The quality of Indian entrepreneurship has not been admired enough. So I think, yes, indeed turbulent. Indeed, it will affect some companies very grievously. So sectors like textiles are very badly hit. Yes. But people are coming out of it. They're regrouping, rethinking. And the government has also acted with some kind of speed. I think a few things that were required, they have done them. Many more things are required, but they have expressed their intent to deal with this. One of them was a crying need for GST reform and change, and which they've done. And see the result. Government pushed the whole idea as a PR exercise, but irrespective, the September collection gives confidence to a government that while you cut duties in a very drastic manner, you're always worrying whether the Lapper's curve will come to play or not. But here it has come. And that is the strength of our economy, that's the strength of our businesses, that we will be able to handle this turbulence.
We've got nearly 2 lakh crores from GST in the month of September. It also gives you a boost in terms of the consumption which is there, the energy which people are holding up, saying that, okay, I want to consume, but let the moment come in.
Absolutely. I think people would not spend simply because GST has been cut. It's also because people on the ground have great confidence in the country and now this government, that there was one part of GST which is reducing duty on many items, which is completely unconscionable, almost unfair. Yeah. That reduction helped a lot. And 5% slab doesn't feel like a tax at all. So you see this one commercial that, how 18% has become 0%.
0%.
Now, that's the kind of change that the government dynamism brought. So all in all, we are far from dead. We may or may not remain the fastest growing economy, and that's not important. Yeah. What is important is the internal dynamism. That, yes, we will grow against all odds, and you're growing at a reasonable pace. If on the ranking basis we are the fastest, fantastic, because it's easy to state that number. You don't have to say the number when you say fastest. But sometimes it doesn't reflect the absolute power of the country. True. The absolute of the power of the country as what this GST mechanism has shown or GST reset has shown is a lot more. And that's what we have to exploit.
Mr. Bansali, it's a disruption in some way, but it's also a challenge for the entrepreneurs to regroup themselves and to brace this disruption in and take it in a fashion that you are able to scale up from here. You have been witnessing a lot of entrepreneurs over your last 4-5 decades. What has changed on the ground for them?
If you ask me, that it's an ecosystem. And the ecosystem has 3-4 parts. Say, for example, the regulation, the environment in which you can do business. Then the funding environment. The regulators also kind of decide what sort of funding instruments, what kind of funding institutions are allowed. For example, mutual funds came into being only in toward the end of 1980s. We had control over capital issues. You couldn't price your issues. We had stock exchanges of very different kind. And from there on to today, Maharashtra government just put out an ad that you can expect on the digital permissions for several things and more such liberalization. So you can imagine that how regulation is a very large part of what our business is able to do. The second important part, of course, is the risk-taking nature of the businessmen. This country does not lack that at all. As a matter of fact, when you have history of licensing Raj for decades.
91.
For decades you had, after independence, what mattered really, because we were not a free country and we couldn't think of a congenial business atmosphere. And after that, for decades, we killed enterprise. It was Dhirubhai against all odds who in 1977-78, he said, I can't be stopped.
True.
So he found ways. So that is a measure of the entrepreneurial hunger in this country. And then, okay, over the last 30 years, 35 years, we have diluted controls. We're still a very controlled economy. But to the extent that we allowed new funding instruments, funding institutions, we allowed foreign capital to come in various forms, how the country has responded. So that's the second part. The third part is, of course, the risk-taking appetite I talked about. And the fourth is the global atmosphere in which you function. The whole world slows down, it becomes difficult. Or what are the regulatory, what are the technology changes? So what the global influence on this? With these 4 factors, if I were to say the biggest change that has happened is in the attitude of the government. And 91, what happened? They said, let's get out of the Indians' ways. Yes. They want to import, they want to set up a factory, let them do it. But there were still many, many controls. Each decade has shown some fall in controls. Vajpayee's time, we saw some big decontrol, right? We saw even privatization.
Yes.
That was the last time we saw any privatization. Air India was not actually a privatization, it was a stress sale. So we saw some changes, but then, again, we had a holiday from change and deregulation for several, for 10 years. Now again, started to see deregulation, some decontrol. If it catches great speed, you're going to see Indian businesses respond. Fortunately, the funding institutions and mechanisms are here in place. We have created our own gift city for international capital. So I think there is some distance to go, but we are pretty good in terms of the efficiency with which we run our capital markets, we run our central bank, we run our systems. And a lot of the elements like bankruptcy law, etc., which cleans up the system from time to time are here. So to answer your question in simple words, change the regulation, Indian entrepreneurs are going to touch the skies.
Mr. Bhansali, the Indian entrepreneur has also gone through has faced multiple turbulences. Every time a regulation has changed, it's also turbulence for businesses as well. 1901, they were used to the import license Raj. That led to new breed of entrepreneurs coming into play. We had then, if you fast forward to 2008, the great financial crisis, that brought in fresh challenges for capital funding, for new entrepreneurs to come into play there. Then you have, 2014, where Supreme Court comes and disrupts the entire economy with telecom and coal scams. That brings in a new challenge for entrepreneurs to come into play there. How do you see the role of the entrepreneur and how he has evolved himself during these turbulent times?
So, take 91. We had a phenomenon of something called GDRs. And it's still the older business houses who are looking at GDRs. Some of those names don't even exist today. One of them was, say, for example, Garden Silk.
Yes.
Garden Silk was a very popular brand. So creatures who were created in a particular environment, their ability to face large changes was just too poor. We also had a Bombay Club in 94, right? Resisting these changes. So such was the extent of turbulence they felt that these are all business leaders.
Yes.
I don't want to name them, but the fact of turbulence. But then there were a company like Reliance, which saw the opportunity, which was a beneficiary of the old times also, and which became a leader in the new times also. So what makes such entrepreneurs who go from one crisis to the other crisis and achieve greater strength, or who are good enough for whatever be the environment in the world? So you need some capability. Reliance proved that it had extraordinary vision, extraordinary execution capability, and therefore it has done as well in de-licensed times as licensing times.
It also led to emergence of new entrepreneurs as well.
The second part was the emergence of new entrepreneurs. That companies like Infosys became the talk of the town. For a long time, the old world was extremely jealous and extremely suspicious.
Because of the valuation they were getting.
Valuation and the popularity. There was a situation I know where the Prime Minister of a country wanted to visit Bangalore and Infosys. People in Delhi didn't know what they were talking about. So these are the, what we call time lag between powers that be and the emerging powers. True. So we have seen this emerging power. Like recently in the last few years, we have seen all these new companies come up. True. So the point about your new entrepreneurs is that as you change the regulatory environment, we do not know who will turn a star. And this is the story of New India, that we are going to see newer and new stars. You see a Falguni Nair, an investment banker for so long, create a brilliant company like Nykaa.
Yeah.
Why? Because she felt free. She felt that I don't have to manage the system, I have to manage the business. And this overburden of managing the system is still not small in this country. So we are seeing that not everyone survives. A lot of the old industrial houses, I won't like to mention names, but they are no more. A lot of the young children don't even know those houses existed, or what their companies are today.
Well, unless you have those paper share certificates with you.
Paper shares, or even if those companies are there today, they are no more in the big top 20 ranking, or even top 50 ranking sometimes. So that is the case, that you have to have something in you. I gave the example of Reliance, that they were fantastic in the old world, they are fantastic in the new world. So what is it that you need as this new environment is going to happen faster, right? We have Toffler's accelerative thrust, things are going to change faster and faster. And in that, you have to have certain qualities. Maybe I would like to share that what those qualities are.
Sure.
Execution capability. That you can execute better and better and better. You have a proposition, a business proposition that adds value to customer. If I was taking advantage of customer due to shortages, or I had poor quality and I could change my quality, then those are the companies that fall off. And the third is the entrepreneurial department. The entrepreneurial department in many companies stops growing after a while. because they had certain limited ambition, they've achieved it, they become complacent, and they are ready to be knocked by the next gust of wind, and they do get knocked off. But where the enterprise is burning bright, so in a house like Tata's, it's always burned bright.
Yeah.
They have taken risks. They say we have to build businesses for tomorrow. Reliance, it has always burnt bright. Where it has not happened doesn't. So you need a great business proposition, you need execution of that business proposition, and you need enterprise with vision, risk-taking and vision. So it just can't be, I can't be too ahead of businesses, right? There were some who were visionaries, but they were poor executioners who had no idea as to what the ground reality was. So a lot of telecom companies, aviation companies, just pure vision was not good enough. So your sense of the ground reality, your ability to deal with it, all companies that have shown that they have all these departments, they have done well. They've survived all the changes and they are thriving. They are becoming better and better.
In the new world, uh, if you look at India as a new India which is there, infra is playing a bigger role today, right? When we talk of Infosys, it was a flag bearer for the services sector. When we speak about Reliance, it was a flag bearer for the entire private sector, oil and gas, juggernaut. How they transform themselves into a consumer company, to a telecom platform, or a digital company in that sense. In the infra space, do you see that entrepreneurial spirit still there? And do you see aggression in terms of how to build projects?
Indeed, I think the Adani Group has emerged as a company which has mastered building big infra projects in record times. And they've also shown great ability to face turbulence. As I just said, that you can't face turbulence. I mean, Hindenburg was something that was a blow not only to Adani, but also it was a blow to the whole country. I mean, they tried to drag Indian government and India as a name into the whole controversy. So it was a big one. And it is also a relatively new industrial house, which was not tested. There's always a skepticism about new boys. And I remember even Infosys. I remember Reliance, right? For several years, I used to, defend, talk about Reliance that this is not a bubble. It used to be called a bubble. This bubble will burst by the old houses.
It was Bombay Club versus Reliance, right?
So I won't mention names, but they faced so much resistance. So the new boy in the Infosys, people said, no, all the numbers can't be true. When they were growing 50%, 100%, 200% market cap or whatever, etc. I kept answering those questions and I would smile that because you do not do your homework, because it's like a street dog, I mean, a new dog comes in the street, you want to bark at it. But there may be fantastic qualities to the dog. So there's some kind of skepticism Adani also faced. But Adani's vision of building infrastructure, it started with their acquisition of the Mundra port.
True. Yeah.
It's a port with no hinterland. It's all desert. There's nothing hardly manufactured. Kandla was as a port. Yeah. Its success, despite being a fantastic location, has been limited for this reason. So Mr. Adani had a bigger challenge than Kandla also. Kandla had certain advantages. So the same Kutch reason, it taught him so much. And he never looked back. He actually reverse engineered in the sense, okay, what can I bring to this port which the country needs, which I can manage? That's how the coal business came into his mind. And then he mastered the coal logistics. So having built a fantastic port in a difficult location, difficult from commercial point of view, from a logistics, from the sheer port point of view, it's a fabulous location, fabulous draft, etc., etc. So this has given him some huge capability. And when the Hindenburg attack came, everything was up for grabs. That, all these are supported by someone. This is a favor created company. I had heard the same stories for Reliance also, for that matter. But because they had most extraordinary execution capability, they continued to execute. When you execute businesses in time, you have cash flows. So his businesses had cash flows. And that's how they could refinance themselves. That brings me to another aspect. In that enterprise department,
Yes.
if you cannot balance your financial strategy and business strategy, these difficult times knock you out. Let me relate you to another similar situation in 2014-15. This government, we had Reserve Bank shouting a lot about NPAs. They brought in what is called AQR, Asset
yeah.
Quality Review.
Governor Rajan brought in that.
And then they thought that the new government was going to push back and will they allow this NPA cleanup? They became even more aggressive. They wanted to clean up. And at that point of time, when the banks were, in reset mode,
Yes.
there were industrial houses which were massively exposed. And that included houses like Reliance and Tata's, that they had, large amounts of debt. And those who don't understand these things, they read only headlines. So Adani was also a headline.
Yes.
People don't see that, what sort of enterprise and wisdom how Reliance was kept on building quietly, and then they set a world record of raising capital in
During
6 months.
COVID.
In 6 months' time. They brought in money which was not visible to others. Facebook, Microsoft, Gap, what not, the best of investors.
In the middle of COVID.
In the middle of COVID. So when you have execution capability, you have this entrepreneurial wisdom that, okay, we need to reset our finances from time to time. Tata's had went through a similar thing, right? But Tata's kept selling their TCS shares, raised capital, acquired company Bhushan at a point like this, shut down whatever, etc., honor their old liabilities. So you need sheer strength. Without that, you can't do it. Adani proved that we have that strength, that this scale, the business, like Infosys was a new business. Reliance brought a new scale, right? When they put up the 7,000-ton polyester plant at Patal Ganga, people couldn't believe that, old plants were 1,000, 2,000 tons, and this is 7,000 tons. So people can't believe all these things. So Adani was a similar case, that in an infrastructure business, does he have the execution capability? Does he have the management team? Can he take on everything? So I think this is the fear of new, the fear of unknown, and headlines blinding important people, important voices to create this confusion. But all businessmen are out there to be tested from time to time. Another company which showed both world-class and ability to face turbulence is Bharti Telecom. Now, when the times turn negatively, some people will tend to write off. But this man had the vision to recognize that telecom is a consumer business. Way back in 90s, when he was still selling
telephone
at 16 rupees a minute. But yet he was investing in advertising and building a brand. They're building a quality. You can't build a brand unless you deliver a quality product. So Sunil Mittal has been amongst the most visionary companies. And today, look at the cash flows that he's generating. He also took risk as an entrepreneur. He went to Africa. It proved to be very difficult, but that's what enterprise is about. If Tatas have taken risk on so many things go wrong. Reliance has taken much longer in some of their businesses to come. But that's the wisdom part, that's the enterprise part, and how they from time to time will raise capital. Adani raised capital. It proved to the world that I can raise capital and nobody will give me capital unless I have something to deliver on.
Under the shadow of Hindenburg, it happened actually.
Yeah, investors don't care. See, the big investors are not reading the headline. They are reading the bottom line. They read the fine print. So a lot of the trouble, my friend, maybe, due to media, sometimes, who are more about headlines, they will create these headlines. But it is not, it's your job, so I don't blame you for that. But it is the fine print. And so those who read the fine print, they multiply the money in no time. So I think enterprises that have real strength, real enterprise in terms of changing with times, risk-taking, honesty, ability to execute, etc., they are the ones who will face these tests. Sajjan Jindal. Say, for example, from 1985, I've known when he was a young engineer, and how he had that ambition. And that ambition backed by extreme hard work and desire to learn from the best. And how he learned from Tata's, Birla's, Reliance, that how they build their empires. He took real risk, the entrepreneurial risk I'm talking about, by bringing in the Corex technology, setting up a large facility in a new place called Vijayanagar. Yeah. Not having a steady iron ore supply, but he said, this technology is so good, I'm going to. He got tested in that period of 90, post-Asian crisis in 98, 99, a lot of our corporates were again debt-ridden, etc. That got reset during Vajpayee times under Jaswant Singh. They had CDR or whatever.
Yes, CDR, yeah.
And then he never looked back. But he was hit by our wonderful Supreme Court, right?
Yes, recently.
They banned all the iron ore mining. He was left without an iron ore supply.